So next we're going to talk about professional and unprofessional writing because there's a big difference. Before we do that though, you need to do if you're in the classroom with the rest of the group and with someone replacing me, you need to do the activity that the substitute has. If not, fast forward and jump to the next part of the video. Because professional versus unprofessional, when it comes to writing, is difficult to figure out sometimes. We know what it is to see it, but we can't really put words to it. So that's what the activity is going to do. So if you're in the classroom, put me on pause right now so that you can do the activity. If you're at home, keep trucking. And we're going to talk about professional versus unprofessional writing now. And there is a big difference. So you should be taking notes on this still, because you're going to need it. So there's one element that is the biggest difference between professional writing and unprofessional writing, and that's judgment. So under professional writing, or anything professional to an extent, it's full of judgment. Big time. Unprofessional writing is kind of like the Planet Fitness of writing, if you will. It's a total judgment-free zone. So, for instance, if you did that activity in the classroom, based on what somebody's wearing, you judge them. If they're dressed professionally or not. If we're going to do the activity with me, if you look at me, right now I'm recording this on a Friday, which is our dress down day at work, but I still look professional to an extent. I'm wearing darker jeans, I have a dressy shirt on, I have a sweater on, you can't see anything, but I could take the sweater off, I could throw on a pair of sneakers, and I can dress it down and be more casual. But as students, you guys judge us based on how we dress. If I came to class every single day on a non-dress down day in sneakers, jeans, and a sweatshirt, you would consider that unprofessional. If you guys showed up working at a dentist's office and you weren't in scrubs and you showed up in PJ pants, that would not be professional. When you don't look professional, people judge you and think that you don't know what you're talking about just because you don't appear that way. It's the same thing in your writing. So professional writing is full of judgment. People who are seeing it are judging you based on your intelligence, are getting ideas about your personality from it. They're judging you because of your spelling and other reasons that we're going to list. Unprofessional writing, like your text messages and emails and mostly those things, or in your journals if you do journaling or something like that. There's no judgment because people are going to love you even if you spell something wrong anyway. So if you text your best friend and you spell something wrong, they're not going to think you're stupid. They're going to laugh anyway. They're going to love you anyway. They're still going to like you. It's no big deal. On this side of the board, though, you could end up losing a job if you don't spell something right on your resume. So the main reason that this one is full of judgment and this one isn't is because of something called audience that we're going to talk about. The thing with professional writing is there's an unknown audience. When you write, sometimes you have no idea who's going to end up seeing what you're writing. So your essays, for instance, you're going to have to use professional writing because maybe I'm going to show the program director. Maybe I'm going to show another instructor. Maybe I'm going to show the president of the campus. Maybe I'm going to show another student. So you never know who's going to be reading it and judging you based on what they're reading. Same thing goes when you're looking for a job. When you write a resume and a cover letter, you don't know who's reading it because you've never met them before. On the flip side, though, with unprofessional writing, you know the audience. Whether it's your friends or your parents or spouse or anything like that. You know who you're writing to, and you know that they're not going to judge you if you get something wrong. They're not going to not hire you because of something, because they know you personally. So in professional writing, everything needs to be perfect. And that means spelling, grammar, and I use the word perfect a little loosely at this point, because you're not going to be perfect yet. But that's what we're striving towards, is that you're as perfect as you can be. Because if you spell your name wrong, you're not going to get a job. And you can please laugh if you'd like, but I actually had 3 students turn in resumes to me at a school I was working at, and 3 of them spelled their names wrong. I didn't think that I needed to make that part of the instructions and part of the lecture, but I guess that I did, because 3 of them spelled their own name wrong. I actually had to check my roster and make sure I had it right. But if they didn't know how to spell their own name, or they didn't take the time to check it and make sure it was right, why would I want to hire them if they were that rushed and that lazy, is kind of the image it puts across. The other thing with professional writing is you have to follow English rules. So you have to put complete sentences together, which is part of grammar. You can't use shortcuts. So you can't do this instead of that, like we do so often. In texting, we use the ... wrong all the time. The ... actually has a purpose, and it has a name other than ... in English. But we use it in text messages to show that we're transitioning a thought, and the more dots, the longer of a pause we want someone to have. Well, we can do that over here, but we can't do that over here because you'd be using the punctuation improperly. The other thing with professional writing is that formatting matters. Whether that's your emails, there are actually professional ways to set up emails, business letters, resumes, essays. So in this class, we're going to talk about MLA style. In English 2, we're going to talk about APA style. And we're going to talk about how to format citations and papers and things like that. All of it matters over here. Over here, it doesn't. Over here, you don't need to follow English rules. You can use abbreviations and shortcuts and ... the wrong way. You can spell things wrong. In unprofessional writing, you kind of just need to get your point across. But nothing needs to be perfect. For so many of us, autocorrect is messing a lot of things up for us on text messaging. Especially like if you look at Pinterest and it's autocorrect gone wrong. That's unprofessional writing. It doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes my friends are afraid to email me or text me because they think I'm going to correct it. In my head I do, but I don't to them. But it doesn't need to be perfect. And you know what? I can make a mistake. I just did not too long ago. And our program director had a field day with it because I spelled something wrong. I might on the board too because I'm not perfect. And right now, we're being a little informal. Mistakes happen. I'm not editing the stuff I'm putting on the board after I'm writing it. And in unprofessional writing, formatting does not matter. So I'm going to write that quicker and just do no formatting. So when we shoot an email to people and it's in unprofessional, we could shoot a quick line, we don't sign it, it's not punctuated, we don't put a salutation on it, which is like dear so-and-so. We just write whatever we want. Or a text message or a Facebook message. We don't make it all formal and dear Mr. comma. I would like to talk to you about sincerely so-and-so. We don't do all that stuff over here. We just say what we want to say. So formatting doesn't matter, doesn't need to be perfect. Here's another thing though. In professional writing, you are not allowed to use something called slang. And you have to define something called jargon. There is another video that's going to talk about slang and jargon. If you've already watched it, you know what those things mean. If you haven't, we're getting there, so don't worry. In unprofessional writing, you are slang, jargon, anything goes. So the main thing with professional writing is you want to get your point across as perfectly as possible so that somebody doesn't get the wrong idea about you. So everybody in this room is very smart if you're in the classroom with me. If you're at home hanging out, you're still smart too because you got in school. But sometimes in writing, we're not able to actually show how smart we are because so much of us are wrapped up in Facebook messages, Pinterest posts, Twitters, tweets, text messages, things like that. This is our universe, especially for people a lot younger than me. People older than me are kind of used to this because technology didn't hit them as hard as it has hit my generation and the ones behind me, and I'm not even that old yet, though sometimes I feel it. But what happens is you can be super, super smart, but if you write something and it looks crappy, it's going to make you sound crappy. So, for example, one of the physicians I used to work for, he's unbelievably smart. He's a very good practitioner, in my opinion. And he was the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society, which is difficult to do. He was president of the local chapter, and he actually decided on his own to start up a clinic for the uninsured. So people who didn't have insurance would be able to come and would be able to see physicians on a regular basis and get treated and get medicine and things like that without any kinds of costs. It's not really like a walk-in clinic, but it's more of a doctor's office for free. He started all that. So he's amazingly intelligent, but because he started his clinic and because he was in a position of being in charge of the medical society, he had to send out a lot of letters to other people. And when I first started working for him, he's a little gruff initially. He would buzz me in his office, hand me something, and say, mail it. And other people who worked there would fold the letter, stick it in an envelope, and mail it, and do exactly what he said. I, of course, didn't. And I would edit it, and I'd mark it all in red, because it was horrible. It was full of mistakes. Stuff was spelled wrong, because he sat down and got his thoughts on paper as quickly as possible, and he had, man fingers, where one finger would hit two keys at the same time, kind of a thing on a keyboard. And he was in a rush, and he always rushed, or he would write things in abbreviations. So I would mark the whole thing up. The first time I did it, didn't go over well. I marked it up, I put it on his desk while he was in with a patient. So a couple minutes later, get in here, on the intercom. He buzzes me in his office. So I walked in. He holds up the letter. He goes, what do you call this? So now I could have been nice, or I could have been sarcastic. And me, I'm sarcastic. So I looked at him and I said, well, judging by all the red marks, it looks like a piece of crap. And he was a little taken aback by it. And he kind of cocked his head, and I said to him, I'm like, if you send that out to other professionals, they're going to think you're an idiot because you don't know how to spell the, because he had T-E-H, when you hit type too fast. He didn't spell check it, nothing. So I told him, I said, if you want me to mail that out, I absolutely will, but you need to fix it first because you're a lot smarter than that. So I didn't know what was going to happen. He fixed it, buzzed me back, asked me to mail it. It was cleaner, but still pretty messed up, so I marked it all up again. By about the third edit, he got aggravated. The second time I gave it back to him full of marks, he fixed it again. By the third time, he got aggravated and said, just get in here and fix it yourself. So while he was in with a patient, I sat at his desk, I fixed the letter myself, then I sent it out. That became our rhythm for the 5 years I ran his office. But it made him look better. Even though he had degrees lining the walls, even though he was smart enough to start a clinic, to be a physician, to specialize in something, to run an entire medical society of all the other doctors in the state, that piece of paper, because he rushed and it wasn't perfect, on paper, if somebody didn't know him, it would have made him look inept and dumber than he actually is. So that's the goal behind talking to you about this stuff, is all of you are very intelligent people. We just need the paper to reflect as intelligent as you actually are. So we need to slow down maybe how you usually write. So if you normally just sit there and start typing and hand it right in with nothing before it, nothing after it, we need to slow that habit down so that we can make sure it comes out as perfect as it can. So there are going to be times when I put comment bubbles on your things and say, if I didn't know you, would you want this to be how you're represented? Just to kind of put it in perspective for you. So our goal is to get you professional. It's going to be pretty difficult, especially if you're in that texting, tweeting, Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever I'm missing kind of land over here. We got to get you out of this. So the first couple writing assignments, it might take a while to kind of snap you out of that. So just don't get discouraged. Just know where we're trying to end up.